All right, so today we're going to talk about how to properly format your research paper using MLA style. Now, this is not my document. I did not create this. I found it on Hazel, Hayzel Moli Communications. That's MOLI Communications.com. So just to give credit to the source where I found it, why recreate the wheel? I also want to say that the Purdue University Online Writing Lab, also known as OWL, is a really good resource for MLA format as well. So just a few things here. To start with, just general formatting of the document as a whole, and then we'll do a couple of little extra bits that happen to be here. So first of all of the margins, meaning this white space on all four sides of each page, need to be 1 inch. Okay, you set that in page setup. Page layout, depending on what program you're in. You will always put your last name and the page number. Okay, and this is coded for you. As part of the computer program, you're not going to need to change that number on each page. Okay, so you need to go in and insert a page number with your last name in the top right corner, and this is going to be actually a 1/2 inch from that top border. This will also then be on every page. So if I scroll down, you'll see page 2 and page 3 are also there. Okay. The heading information is found only on page 1, and this contains your name, my name, the course name, which for you is English 9, and then the date. And this is the due date. Okay, so you want to make sure that the date you're turning it in is the date that you have there. The title of your paper is centered. Notice that there's just one, after this, there's only one space that's been pressed here, and that there's only one space that's been pressed between that title and the first line. I know a lot of people like to make the title pretty with a different format, to highlight it, different font, extra space. That is not MLA format, okay? Notice that the capitalization that needs to be present in your title as well. Something I shouldn't have to say, but know that I better. All right, the whole entire paper is double spaced. Here it tells you that. The entire paper is double spaced. There are no extra spaces between paragraphs either. We'll come back to that here in a moment. And it's very important that you use a readable font. Okay, so it used to be, Times New Roman font size 12. The MLA is more open now, so you can use a serif font or a sans serif font. Remember, serifs are those little tags that are on the edge of the letters. This is Times New Roman, so it is a serif font. You need to do a decent size font. Most fonts operate well at 12 point. Some you can take down to 11. Typically, we don't get any bigger than that or any smaller than that. And you don't want to use one of those scripty fonts where it looks like someone wrote in cursive. You really want to make sure that there's a difference between the typefaces that are normal and the ones that are italicized. That needs to be really obviously different. So that's one of the checks that you can use as to whether your font's good or not. If you stick with Times New Roman, Arial, Garamond, some of these fonts like this, then you should not have a problem. All right, let's look at a couple other little specific things that were mentioned here that I think are worth mentioning while you're here. So we talked about how there are not extra spaces between the title and the first paragraph, nor are there extra spaces between paragraphs, which means that it's absolutely vital that you indent at the beginning of every new paragraph. You do this with the tab key. Okay, it's a little arrow with a little line next to it, top left corner of your keyboard, about 3 keys down, tab key. Don't hit the space bar 5 times. Okay, and when you double space your paper, make that a formatting thing. You go in and you select double spacing in the program that you're not hitting enter at the end of each line. That's just crazy, because if you change anything later, it's going to affect every single line, and it's way more work than it has to be. You can Google all this formatting stuff or ask me as well. I'm assuming most of you already know that, so I'm not going to take up your time with that. Just a nod here that anytime you use the name of something formal, like a book, a play, a poem, a TV show, a ship, a spacecraft, a magazine, a website, so on and so on and so on, it's going to be italicized unless it's a shorter work, in which case we use the quotation marks. So you need to make sure, go back to my earlier lesson from the beginning of the year and check that and make sure that you are properly formatting titles. Just a nod here, there's a whole nother screencast that I've done for you on the works cited list and in-text citations, but just a note, there's one there, and here's one with a page number if you're using a book, for example, that actually has page numbers. Online, they typically don't have page numbers given. All right, so I'm just going to scroll down here a little bit. Not going to really look at this stuff. It's kind of repetitive from before, but I did want to show you this one here. So if you have a quotation, a direct quote, that is more than 4 lines, you are going to designate that a little bit differently than you would another quote, a shorter quote. Now you have to be real careful with these. That's a long quote. It really has to be super, super meaningful. You would not have more than one of these in any paper, I would think, unless it's a really, 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 really long, like maybe 10-page paper. Otherwise, you really want to keep your quoted material to a manageable length so that it's simply supporting what you have to say, not saying it for you. So be careful, but it does happen from time to time. And it typically is introduced with a colon, okay? Complete sentence and a colon. I've just sent you a lesson recently on how to properly use the colon, and this is one of those ways. And this is going to be indented with an additional ½ inch. Now, it's not as visible here. It looks like it's actually incorrect. It should be indented on both sides so that what you see is this sort of pull-out looking thing. This should be indented like this with this line here on both sides. And therefore, you do not use the quotation marks. You do, however, have that in-text citation. Your paragraph can continue, so you wouldn't have an indent, or that ends the paragraph and the next paragraph is indented. It just depends on what it is that you're saying and how you're using the quote. But I would absolutely caution you on using those really long quotations. I'm not at all going to encourage you to do that. I'm going to discourage you from doing it, but I did want to say that because here it is, and it is a thing that happens in really long papers. Save that for when you are in university. All right, so hopefully that helps you. Please make sure on first day of editing that you are checking that your paper is properly formatted using MLA. Great. Thank you so much.